So on this particular property, a lot of big fields, a lot of spots that look good for a box blind, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of gun hunting or rifle hunting where you want to stretch out your distances. There are a lot of good places here on this property where we could put a blind and be able to shoot rifle, but we also like to bow hunt here. And we're in Wisconsin, so we can cross bow hunt. So we can get a little bit more distance than we can with a compound bow. So we spent about an hour yesterday looking at aerial imagery from HuntStand, driving around the property, taking into account all the possible considerations we could before we decided the final X where we wanted to put this blind. And I think we found really the perfect spot. And so what we wanted to do was put it in a spot where we could use it all season, early season, all the way through the end. So crossbow and bow season, through rifle season, into muzzleloader in the late season. So from a tool perspective, between crossbow, bow, rifle, muzzleloader, we wanted to put it in a spot where we know we would have a shot radius where we're going to be able to use all those hunting tools potentially. So we've got this little narrow strip of field right here. It's a consistent food source. We've got bedding on both sides, but we've also got just the amount of distance around it so that the primary trails and the food source are going to be accessible for us to shoot with a bow and a crossbow. With a rifle, we're on this big field right here that's L-shaped, so we wanted to set it up on the corner of the L so that we were going to be able to shoot in all three directions. And we were fortunate to be able to consider this and put it in a spot where we're able to get the best of both worlds. So we've got a nice archery shooting radius, we've got a tremendous gun shooting radius, so we're going to be able to utilize this box blind from a hunting season perspective between what types of tools you're using all season long. Usually when you put one out, you're thinking about it as a permanent setup. It's not like a tree stand that you can easily move. It's not like a ground blind that you can easily move. It's something that in most cases you're probably going to want to leave out there once you have it set up. So the other thing to take into consideration would be seasonality from a weather and food source perspective. One of the biggest benefits to hunting out of a box blind is that you get that cover, especially during cold weather, any kind of inclement weather. So in the early season, that's going to be rain. In the late season, that's going to be snow and cold. So think about where you're going to put it in terms of the weather conditions and what they're going to be throughout the year and how you intend to hunt it. In this case, we're going to be able to hunt this place all year. So early in the season, it's less about the weather or the rain or moisture conditions and being protected in it, but it's more about scent control. And that actually applies all year, but especially in the early season where we're trying to get them close with archery equipment. In this particular area right here, we really like to hunt what we call a fringe wind for where the bedding areas are located. So we like to make the deer feel like they have an advantage with the way that they move with the wind. So we're cutting the edge of their main travel on a wind that's gonna make them feel like they're comfortable, but also give us an advantage. So hopefully they're gonna travel through and give us a shot with an archery distance. With a box blind, you have so much really quality containment that if you keep the windows closed, you're going to be able to get away with things that you're not going to be able to get away with, whether you're hunting a tree stand or a ground blind out in the open air, because you can control that scent and keep it so well contained in that box blind. Add something like an ozone unit to it with good ventilation, and then we're really talking about serious scent control. There are more things to think about with a box blind, but I'll lay this down as the final consideration, and that would be the accessibility. Make sure you put it in a place that is going to be easy for you to access. So whether you're able to drive a side-by-side or an ATV up relatively close, and honestly, a lot of guys will even park right next to it, because if you're on an active farm, a lot of times the deer are really used to the activity of machines moving around. They're even used to the smell. So I wouldn't be too concerned about necessarily even parking close to your box blind, as long as you have somewhat of a routine where those animals are used to all that. But the bottom line is you really need to consider, just like a tree stand or a ground blind, your entrance and exit routes. You want to put it in a place that's accessible, where you can get in with the least amount of contamination in the area as possible, both on the vegetation as you're walking in and out, and also where your scent is going to be blowing as you're walking in and out. So don't invest in a box blind and just throw it out somewhere random where you think you're going to be able to shoot a long ways with a rifle. I mean, that's something that you can do, but you can get a lot more out of it if you just put a lot of forethought into it. So look at HuntStand, consider the deer that you're hunting, consider all the elements that you would with any other setup, but maybe even look at it even deeper, because you're probably going to be leaving this thing out here for a long time and you want to make sure that you can use it as much as possible.